Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network, Republic of China, young master marries his auntie again. Through time travel, as the only son of the Republic of China, he gained a thriving system of branches and leaves. For every additional wife, concubine, or offspring, you will receive corresponding generous rewards. In order to develop his family and revive China, Su Chen voluntarily sacrificed himself. When others were struggling and managing, Su Chen was marrying his aunt. When others are in dire straits and contemplating the future of China, Su Chen is still marrying his aunt. I'm convinced. The young master of the Su family has married his aunt again. Aunties are spread across various industries. Su Chen was also labeled as a talented and virtuous young man. Until Mr. Su lost money in his business and the Xia fell into the biggest crisis. Su Chen descended like a god, saving the family, extending a big hand, and supporting the country. Everyone finally realized how terrifying it was for someone whose mind was full of aunties. This book is also known as What My Auntie Can Do and What I Can Do, and 100 Years of Family, starting from marrying my auntie during the Republic of China period. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1, The Young Master has taken a concubine again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 1910, the second year of the Qing dynasty's Xiantong reign, was the Gregorian calendar year. Internal and external troubles, the eyes of the great powers are eyeing. The signing of various unequal treaties make this already unstable country even more defeated. The people of China endure hardships and hardships. However, these have nothing to do with the Su family in Jiangnan. A wealthy family. Life in this era is still excellent. Not to mention, the Su family is still doing big things today. The only child in the Su family is marrying his aunt again. At this moment, the Su family is beating drums and gongs to welcome the bride. The sound of firecrackers made people on the street gather around to join in the fun. Ladies and gentlemen, today is my young master's day of great joy. My master said, big guy can go in and eat and drink for free without paying. At the entrance, the butler let out a loud yo-ha. The passers-by all rushed up in a swarm. Inside the yard, neighbors, relatives and friends, as well as passers-by on the street. At this point, everyone entered the Su family courtyard. In the center of the yard, there are already dozens of tables full of banquets and banquets. It's not bad to have a full meal these days. If you can get good food today, everyone naturally rushes to come. Good guy, this is the third aunt that the young master of the Su family has taken in this year. After marrying the young lady, in just 1 year, she was immediately followed by a third wife. It can only be said that she is charming, really charming. What do you care about others? They have money and it's not an exaggeration to marry a 10-bedroom family. Anyway, as long as they don't miss the banquet we eat here. The young master of the Su family. That is Su Mashuan's eldest son, today's protagonist Su Chen. After taking his wife, he achieved a year-long record of marrying 3 wives in a row. At this moment, Su Chen is completely bound to the word Feng Lu in the outside world. Is Su Chen charming? To be honest, there are indeed some. But in this world, no one knows. Behind Su Chen's charm lies. But there is still a heart hidden to save this country. A year ago, Su Chen traveled through time and came here. After learning that it was the era of the great Xia that traveled through. Even Su Chen had already decided what to do for this world. And the specific way to do it will ultimately be to crazily take in a concubine. The system with lush branches and leaves was obtained by Su Chen after crossing over. The so-called lush foliage is to make Su Chen crazily marry and have children. As long as you add more wives and concubines or have more children, you can continuously receive rewards. The content of the reward is determined based on the rating of the married aunt and her family's close industry. For example, Su Chen's first aunt, well, to be more precise, she is his wife. Yang Shuya, known as the young grandmother by people, has a beautiful appearance and a gentle personality. The system's evaluation of it is gentle, elegant, dignified and atmospheric, with a grade of 3. Later, as his family was in the textile industry, the system ultimately provided Su Chen with a set of textile technologies. Then, Auntie Zhou Jia was also very beautiful, but her personality was a bit arrogant. The evaluation given by the system is flawless, an iceberg beauty, and a water-blooming hibiscus, with a grade of 4. His family is a medical family, so the system directly rewards Su Chen with a set of Huatuo's acupuncture and moxibustion techniques. The third aunt is named Qin Qiuling, who belongs to the small family jade type. In short, she looks like she is loved. The evaluation given by the system is that it is a jade from a small family, with a natural beauty and a grade of 4. Qin Qiuling enjoys calligraphy and literature, which is highly appreciated by her father Su Maxuan. After all, the Lao Su family used to be a literary family. There have even been successful candidates, but in recent years they have switched to business. Marrying Qin Qiuling can be considered as bringing back a bit of elegance to the Su family. So, what the system rewards is also related to literature, it is for the knowledge base of Wenkuxing. Finally, the fourth one, who is the aunt she married today, is Li Qiushui. This Li Qiushui also belongs to that extremely beautiful type of appearance. The evaluation given by the system yesterday was that the skin is as smooth as cream, the eyebrows and eyes are as picturesque, and the grade belongs to the third level, just like the boss. Her family is a wine-making family, so the reward is also related to wine, for the Tang dynasty's daughter Hong, who has a full 100 jars. In addition to the rewards listed above, the system will also give away countless additional content. Overall, after these several concubines, Su Chen has now become extremely cultured and refined. Even after taking some system-gifted pills, his physical fitness has undergone significant changes. Unfortunately, people outside still don't understand me. After receiving various rewards, Su Mo has shown some in front of his aunts. But outside, he was a bit forced and never ran out to pretend. The reason is also very simple. That's what he thinks, in this era. Human development is still indecent, it's better to take it slow. Wait until the accumulation is almost complete and the time has come. If he explodes again, doesn't he smell good? That's it. At this moment, the external evaluation of it is so average. What kind of debauchery is lacking in talent, incompetence, and virtue? A wealthy young master who can only rely on his family's money to be carefree and happy. A wealthy second generation who is greedy for beauty and ignorant. Wait a minute, there are all kinds of sounds. For these evaluations, Su Chen himself is extremely indifferent. However, there is one thing he really wants to say. That's when everyone says he's incompetent. After all, he has always been low-key and has not shown anything. But immorality is a bit excessive. Although I take concubines quickly. But the Lord treats them all so well, okay? Who is that, Aunt Qin Qiuling? This girl married herself purely because her family was in dire straits. At that time, when she got married and returned home, Qin Qiuling was starving for several days without eating. Su Chen directly took out the exquisite flour gifted by the system. I made a bowl of noodles for Qin Qiuling. The girl who ate it was so happy. There was also a business incident at the home of his eldest wife Yang Shuya. It was also Su Chen who made his father rush to save him with silver coins. If it weren't for the help of the Su family, the famous Yang family textile factory may go bankrupt. Saying that Yi has no virtue, Yi has to go to heaven for good things to his wife, you know. Unfortunately, people's positive image is not good, and they don't believe anything they say. Although there is a heart for explanation, it will only cause trouble after explanation. Therefore, let's put no virtue and no talent together. After all, Su Chen's strength is unleashed in the future. People will also know how deeply they misunderstood him. Chapter 2, Sleeping Trough, Bankruptcy Comes So Quickly. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. At night. The Su family courtyard, which had been bustling all day, finally regained its tranquility. Su Chen also bid farewell to his family and friends and slowly arrived at the wedding room in the backyard. The wife Li Qiushui whom I married today has a third-grade appearance. Su Chen also had a fight with his first wife Yang Shuya, so he was very happy in his heart. Slowly pushing the door open, Li Qiushui sat quietly on the bed wearing a red wedding dress and a red cap on his head. Upon hearing Su Chen come in, Li Qiu's subconscious moved and her heart couldn't help but become nervous. Hee, relax. Su Chen whispered and walked to the bedside. Li Qiushui nodded silently, his two small hands tightly clenched together. She knew the reputation of the young master of the Su family, although she didn't want it in her heart. But the words of the matchmaker ordered by parents, after today, I will be a member of the Su family. Su Chen picked up the nearby jade rui and slowly lifted Li Qiushui's red cap. Under the candlelight, a face of unparalleled beauty appeared in front of him. Sure enough, the system is not deceiving me. Third-grade appearance, it's amazing. Although the eldest wife Yang Shuya has a third-grade appearance, everyone has different looks and personalities. So now I can see Li Qiushui's appearance again. Su Chen is very happy. At this moment, Li Qiushui was also looking at Su Chen. She didn't expect that the young master of the Su family, who was described as a playboy by the outside world, would have such a good appearance. I'm afraid all the women in his family were attracted by his beautiful skin, right? I heard you cried 3 times before getting on the sedan chair. Su Chen sat next to Li Qiushui and said a faint sentence. Li Qiushui turned his head to one side, and his eyes suddenly turned slightly red again. I know, the rumors from the outside world are not very good about me. But after tonight, I believe everything will change. After saying this, Su Chen slowly extended his hand to prepare for the next move. However, it was also at this moment. Bang bang bang. Suddenly, there was a rapid knocking sound outside the door. Who is it? Su Chen couldn't help but feel a burst of anger in his heart. On my own wedding night, are there people bothering me? Son, it's your father and me. The voice of Su Moshwan came from outside. Su Chen sighed helplessly, why is this father so immature tonight? Sit still and wait for me to come back. After instructing Li Qiushui, Su Chen buttoned his clothes and went to open the door. Watching Su Chen go out, Li Qiushui trembled as he covered his hands and couldn't help but relax a bit. Dad, you're too immature. Is there anything you can't wait until tomorrow to say? Su Chen opened the door and looked at his father helplessly. Don't you know what day it is today? What am I going to do tonight? To be honest, over the past year, Su Chen has accepted Su Moshwan as an old father. Because this old man is really good to him, always obedient. And this also led to Su Chen's smooth journey of getting married after crossing over. Dad knows that today is the happy day for Chinner to marry the 4th aunt. Su Moshwan stood in front of Su Chen with an extremely complex expression. The Su family used to be a literary family, and they had a family of scholars. But in the generation of Su Moshwan, the path of literature was cut off. It's not that Su Moshwan didn't learn, it's mainly because there is chaos in various places now, and literati are unable to survive. Helpless, taking advantage of some money at home, Su Moshwan started a business with his friends. Maybe it's following the right person, maybe it's luck. Unexpectedly, this business has transformed into a millionaire. However, even though the wealthy belong to the wealthy, the Su family's legacy is still literary. Regarding the matter of my own son being a 3-bedroom aunt for a year. although somewhat envious. But Su Moshwan really can't accept it. It's different from those warlords outside. My ancestors were all famous scholars, Su Moshwan was really shameless. But then again, what if I can't accept it? He only has such a precious son, it really hurts. So over the years, I have had to constantly spoil Su Chen, my son. Dad, aren't you listening to the gossip outside and having objections to my marriage? Su Chen raised his left eyebrow, and the frightened old man Su Moshwan nodded repeatedly. In Su Moshwan's heart, he would support his precious son whatever he did. Today, it's not that he wants to disturb Su Chen. It's just that besides some things, he can't help but come and disturb at home. Regarding that matter, Su Moshwan only learned about it after finishing Su Chen's wedding. Su Moshwan pulled Su Chen to the pavilion. My good son, it's not that my father doesn't understand, but because of the current situation, my father has to come to you to discuss it. Su Chen leaned against the door and said helplessly, Dad, if there's anything important, I'll have to wait until tomorrow. I have to start doing the right thing here. Su Moshwan said with a bitter face, somewhat ashamed. My good son, it's my father. I'm sorry for you. Tonight, you may not be able to get things done here tonight. Seeing Dad's expression and tone, Su Chen stared and asked. What? What exactly happened, Dad? Su Moshwan sat on the stone bench and sighed helplessly. It's all your dad's fault. I'm too greedy. A few days ago, there was a batch of goods, and after our dock was completed, the profit was very good. Your father and I found out that the shipper was in big business, transporting things to the front line. Every time I pull a lot of goods, and they are all valuable things. I know this is a business opportunity, so I'll have someone urgently contact the shipper so that we can increase the quantity of goods next time. And I contacted several nearby docks, preparing to have a big fight. I didn't expect to find out that the shipper couldn't be reached after the goods were delivered to the destination. Later on, after inquiring, I found out that the receiving dock had been occupied by some forces, and our goods could not reach the dock. Upon hearing this, Su Chen already knew. My foolish father has been tricked by someone. What about these goods? Why not bring them back? Su Moshwan waved his hand and said with a mournful expression, Your father and I thought the same way. The goods set sail again that night, but unexpectedly encountered wind and waves on the way. Several ships were all sunk in the sea, and the remaining goods were seized by the local government. Upon hearing this, Su Chen shook his head helplessly. As long as this thing gets into the hands of the local authorities, there will definitely be no return. Your father and I have had several connections, but none of them have worked. Just now, after your wedding ended, someone came over to tell me that those goods cannot be returned because they have already been requisitioned by the government. After speaking these words, Su Moshwan's face began to shed tears. Su Chen shook his head and asked, How much money did you invest? Su Moshwan twitched at the corner of his mouth and trembled as he spoke. All the money in our Su family's bank accounts has been invested. The shipper was honest and straightforward when he said it back then. Your father and I also witnessed those receiving docks with our own eyes. So Dad wanted to make enough at once, but he didn't expect. At this moment, Su Moshwan could no longer speak and lay on the stone table crying. All the goods, along with the dock relationship and money. I'm afraid even if the entire Su family courtyard is demolished, it won't be able to offset these debts. After more than 10 years of hard work, I once returned to before the liberation. No one can bear this matter. Su Chen finally understood. This old man's business acumen is really poor. So, both the port and the shipper haven't received any news yet. What are you going to do? Su Moshwan looked red and said, Of course we're running. While they haven't even reacted, I'm planning to take everyone out of the Su family courtyard. Dad thought to himself, I bought a small courtyard on the other side of the city. Although it's not as spacious as the Su family's courtyard, it's enough for our family to live in. After settling down, let's find a way to raise money to pay off the debt. Chapter 3, Too Poor, 4 Women Make One Kang. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Late at night. The entire Jingnan city is incredibly quiet. But in the Su family courtyard, it was incredibly busy. Everyone is busy moving things from the carriage. In the yard, Su Chen looked at several rows of servants and maids kneeling on the ground and couldn't help but sigh. These are 50 taels of silver, you guys should all share it. In the future, we will have the chance to meet again. Upon hearing these words, the servants on the ground all cried and kowtowed. I have been staying at the Su family for many years, and these servants also have feelings. But now that the Su family is in trouble, there is no way to raise any more children. At this moment, Su Chen's 4 wives also slowly walked out. Everyone is carrying a small bundle. Only the newly introduced 4th aunt, Li Qiushui, struggled to carry a box. Please, we're going on an escape, not a vacation. What are you doing with all this stuff? Upon hearing Su Chen's words, Li Qiushui's face turned red. Several aunties next to her all laughed helplessly. Finally, Li Qiushui only took a small bundle and looked at the Su family courtyard in Noada. Li Qiushui suddenly felt a little melancholy. As soon as he entered the door, he was about to flee. What kind of fate was this for himself? 4th sister, come on, stop looking, let's go quickly. The young lady next to her, Yang Shuya, said a sentence. Li Qiushui turned around and looked curiously at the other women. But I found that everyone was talking and laughing, as if there were no worries or worries. Don't worry, 4th sister. I know what you're thinking. But since we are married to the Su family, we will always be members of the Su family. Moreover, I'm afraid you don't know about our grandfather's talent yet, do you? Talent and learning? Li Qiushui looked curiously at the crowd, feeling somewhat puzzled. Isn't Su Chen just a spoiled and promiscuous person? What talent does he have? Seeing Li Qiushui's face full of confusion, Grandma Yang Shuya smiled and looked at the other 2 aunts. All 3 of them came over with smiles to comfort Li Qiushui, a newcomer. After a moment, everyone got on the carriage. Looking out the window at the Su family courtyard, everyone felt inexplicably uncomfortable. Xianggong, we all believe that one day we will still come back. Yang Shuya said a sentence next to Su Chen. Su Chen smiled and turned around, grabbing Yang Shuya's hand. I will. Then he looked up at Li Qiushui in the corner. Su Chen smiled and said, I'm sorry, I made you suffer so much injustice when you first started. Li Qiushui blushed and lowered his head, then whispered softly. No, it's okay. After the persuasion of several aunties just now, Li Qiushui has also accepted this fact. And one more thing is that she is becoming increasingly curious about Su Chen. So, his attitude towards him gradually improved. The carriage jolted all the way and finally came to a stop in a small courtyard at the head of the city. The courtyard is the kind of quadrangle courtyard, very dilapidated, and there are not many rooms to live in. When Su Moxuan came out, he brought 6 or 7 servants and butlers. Now the Su family is bankrupt, but in times of chaos, someone needs to protect them. Finally, allocate it. There are only 4 rooms available for living. The butler and servants stayed in 2 rooms. I don't pay much. But at least give them a place to live. Then Su Moxuan lived with Su Chen's mother. The last large room was left for Su Chen and a few aunties. Although the conditions were difficult, Su Chen really enjoyed the current way of life. Good guy, for stunning beauties neatly arranged on a Kang, are you happy if you're a man? After settling in, it was already past 3 o'clock in the second half of the night. Although several aunties come from prestigious families. But there is no way for the eyes to fall into this scene. Clean up the room and everyone goes to bed together. And Su Chen, of course, was also next to Li Qiushui, the newly married wife. The bridal chamber night ended on such a wonderful night. The next morning, the women all got up happily to dress. Only Li Qiushui was exhausted. Seeing everyone getting up, Li Qiushui also remembered. But the pain on her body made her dare not move at all. Silly sister, lie down first, you can't move at this moment. Grandmother Yang Shuya quickly pressed her down. Beside them, Gao Xiao and Qin Qiuling both smiled and comforted Li Qiushui. After all, they also came from this period. Su Chen said in his clothes. Let's go eat first and bring it back to you later. Li Qiushui blushed and whispered thank you again. From yesterday until now, only these 4 words have been spoken. Of course, this does not include last night's wedding. At this moment, he is at his father Su Moshuan's house. Seeing Su Chen come in with a few wives, Su Moshuan and his wife Zhang quickly came over to welcome them. Dad, Mom, good morning. Grandmother Yang Shuya and her 2 aunts bid farewell to the elderly couple. Hey, good morning. Su Moshuan and Zhang were very satisfied with the wives their son married. Hey, good son, where's your 4th aunt? She just walked in yesterday, isn't she angry and can't come? Su Moshuan asked curiously. No, don't worry, she's just too tired. Upon hearing these words, Su Moshuan and Zhang Shi exchanged a glance, both knowing what was going on. I didn't expect my own son to enter the bridal chamber in such a difficult environment. Su Chen sat directly on the chair and started eating. The 3 wives made some food and sent it to Aunt Li Qiushui. Seeing several sons and wives so sensible, Su Moshuan sat aside and suddenly couldn't help but cry. Su Chen was eating and looked curiously at his father. What's wrong, Dad? Zhang wiped her husband's eyes with a handkerchief and said dejectedly. It's okay, good son. Hurry up and eat. Su Chen sighed helplessly. Dad, what's the big deal? As for this? Upon hearing these words, Su Moshuan cried even more fiercely. Son, Dad is sorry for you. It's all my dad's fault, it's all my dad's fault. You just married 4th aunt, and Dad made this family what it is now. I just got married, and my new wife lives in such a poor house. Tell me, how do people look at us outside, and how do your father-in-law look at us? Alas, pity my son. At this moment, the young grandmother Yang Shuya, Gao Xiao, and Qin Qiuling, who were delivering food, also returned and hurriedly began to comfort them. However, Su Moshuan cried even more sadly. Just at this moment, with a loud bang, Su Chen directly slapped the chopsticks on the table. The whole family looked at him curiously. I saw Su Chen wiping his mouth and looking at Su Moshuan. Dad, stop crying. Isn't it just about losing everything? Let's start from scratch. The 3 wives and Zhang Shi also looked at Su Chen curiously. Because in their minds, although their son has an extraordinary temperament, he speaks and acts steadily. But I've never said anything big, why did it suddenly become like this today? At this moment, Su Moshuan also stopped, swallowed his saliva, and looked at his son. A few seconds later, he started crying again. My good son, are you so easy to earn in our family's industry? Not to mention anything else, we can't even afford to pay off the debts outside now. Chapter 4, Unable to Hide, I Will Take Action. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Su Moshuan sighed, knowing that it was useless to say these things until now. My son is still too young to know how to do business. Forget it, son. Anyway, rest assured. Dad, I will definitely work hard to earn money and help you live a good life again. Our Su family's huge industry cannot be destroyed by me. At this moment, Su Chen smiled faintly. Immediately extend your right hand. The second aunt next to her, Taigao Xiao, immediately reacted and placed a cup of tea in Su Chen's hand. Then she leaned back on the chair, and Aunt Chin Chioling came over to give her a massage. Su Chen drank tea, enjoyed a massage, and then said very calmly, "No need, Dad, this time, it's my turn to work hard." Upon hearing these words, Su Moshwan and his wife Zhang looked at their son in surprise. Both of them thought they had misunderstood just now. At this moment, Su Chen put down his teacup and looked very seriously at the two elders. "That's right, this time it's really time to take action on your own. Because the Su family has encountered such a great disaster." Originally, Su Chen was still thinking about lewd development and low-key accumulation. But now it seems that the situation no longer allows. At this moment, even Su Moshwan couldn't help but be surprised. Why did my son's gaze suddenly become so sharp? "No, son, what did you just say?" "Dad. I don't seem to hear you very clearly." Su Moshwan sat trembling on the chair, looking at his son in shock. "Dad, you heard me right. I said, this time, it's my turn to work hard. I have decided, I want to start doing business." After Su Chen finished speaking, he waved to his eldest wife Yang Shia. "Xianggong." Yang Shia bent down beside her. I saw Su Chen whispering in her ear. Yang Shia immediately nodded and went out. "No, my good son. Do you want to do business?" "Dad didn't hear me wrong, did he? You actually want to do business? Dad begged you for a long time at that time, but you didn't even learn. Now you're saying you want to do business. Are you sure it's not a hot-headed idea?" Su Chen smiled and said, "Dad, I really didn't want to learn at that time. That's because I didn't need to learn, because your son, my business acumen and tools are innate." Upon hearing these words, Su Moshwan awkwardly rubbed his head and realized that his son was indeed a hot-headed individual. Zhang next to her also spoke with concern. "Chinner, doing business is not that simple. Don't you see that your father has been doing it for so many years, and now he has also lost all his money?" Su Moshwan also said helplessly, "Son, Dad just believes for the time being that you really want to do business, but now our family really doesn't have that spare money for you to do business. Your dad and I haven't even cleared all our debts." Before she could finish speaking, Yang Shia, the eldest daughter-in-law of her son, ran back again with an extra package in her hand. "Xianggong, here you are." Yang Shia placed the package next to Su Chen. Su Chen nodded and said, "Open it and show it to our dad." With a loud crash, as the eldest wife Yang Shia opened the package, suddenly, white silver was displayed in front of everyone inside. In the middle is a large ocean wrapped in 10 bundles of red paper, and next to it are some scattered silver coins and 2 bundles of silver bills. Upon seeing this scene, Su Moshwan and Zhang were both stunned. "Son, where did you get so much money?" Usually, Su Moshwan does give Su Chen some pocket money, but this money will be consumed by Su Chen within a day. So Su Chen is definitely unable to save money at home. But now my son has come up with so much money, it's simply unbelievable. "Dad, these are all things I usually save up." Su Chen is naturally lying. According to my usual habit of being extravagant, it's strange to be able to save so much money. These money are actually gifts from the concubine taking system every time. A portion of it will be taken out first to purchase a courtyard. Although it may not be possible to replace it with a better one, it's also good to replace it with a slightly better one. Our family won't be able to fit in this dilapidated courtyard. Su Moshwan and Zhang nodded in agreement. The old couple can be wronged, but their son and these wives must not be wronged. Su Chen patted the silver yuan on the table again. "The other part, I plan to take it out and start a factory to do business. This time, our family will run a textile factory. A few days ago, I learned that our textile business in Jiangnan is doing very well. I'm sure you know, Dad." There were already many textile factories goods on our dock at that time. At that time, we will buy a batch of machines from abroad and come back. Starting a textile factory business can definitely earn money. Upon hearing his son's words, both Su Moshwan and Zhang Shi were surprised and opened their mouths. They didn't expect that their usually carefree son would understand these things today. My good son, please sit down quickly. Tell Dad quickly, how do you understand these things? Su Moshwan happily pressed Su Chen onto the chair. Then I personally poured him a cup of tea. I thought my son only knew how to play, but I didn't expect to learn more about it. Su Moshwan was naturally incredibly happy at this moment. I saw Su Chen pulling his first wife Yang Shuya to his side. Isn't Xiaoya's family running a textile factory business? I get to know her better by being with her every day. Grandmother Yang Shuya was also stunned at this moment. But Xianggong, I also have a slight understanding of those at home. I usually just casually talk to you. How can you know about buying machines from abroad? Su Chen smiled and tugged at her chin, then looked at Gao Xiao and Qin Chuling beside her. Your husband, I love learning so much. What do you guys like? I definitely want to delve into it. As your husband, although you may have some superficial knowledge, I will definitely strive to understand everything. Upon hearing these words, all three wives laughed happily. Su Moshwan and his wife Zhang nodded in satisfaction. It seems that my son has really grown up. Dad, don't worry about those debts at home. I'll go back tonight and have a good class with a few girls by my side. Let them all go find their parents' house, they are all a family, and these girls' parents cannot ignore us at this time. Upon hearing Su Chen's words, Su Moshwan and Zhang Shi were somewhat anxious. Son, isn't this too good? They married their daughters into our family to enjoy their happiness, but now they are asking them to start paying. Su Chen smiled and said, Dad, don't worry. You don't have to worry about this matter anymore. Your son from the Su family will make decisions for you in the future. The three wives next to her also stood up. Dad, we are the daughter-in-law of the Su family. With such a big incident happening at home, we definitely need to help. Aunt Qin Chuling's family is facing difficulties, but she also insisted. Dad, although my family can't afford it, some of my calligraphy and paintings are still very valuable. Tomorrow I'll have someone take it out to exchange money. Watching the family so united, my son also grew up to be sensible. Su Moshwan felt so happy in his heart. Hugging Su Chen, she started crying again. Chapter 5, Aunties, Move Yourself. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. A new late night. Inside the dilapidated small courtyard. In the largest room among them. It was Su Chen and his 4 beautiful wives who lived there. At this moment. In the room, the candlelight flickered, and the beauty on the Kang was also captivating. Xianggong, I want my family to spend 500 yuan, so can you be the first to come with me tonight? Grandmother Yang Shuya was now draped in bed sheets, her eyes tempting as she spoke to Su Chen. Yang Shuya was Su Chen's first wife. She was of the 3rd grade, gentle and virtuous, with an extremely dignified appearance. But in such matters, her usual gentleness and virtue were all thrown into the clouds. After all, wolves have more meat, so it's best to eat them first. Just at this moment, Aunt Taigao Xiao also slowly came to Su Chen's ear to whisper. Xianggong, although my family is not as wealthy as my elder sisters, the income in the clinic is also good, so can I pay 800 yuan in cash for the first one tonight? Gao Xiao's personality is extremely cold and aloof, with a system rating of 4, but his appearance is still very good, and he has returned from studying abroad. When I entered, I was actually very reluctant, but within a few days, I was conquered by Su Chen. At this moment, I am also striving for my own happiness. As the 3rd Auntie Qin Chuling, although she enjoys playing the piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting on a daily basis. But because my family was poor, I had to marry into the Su family. Although she has a fourth-level appearance, her delicate and pitiful personality is exposed every night. Even Su Chen couldn't resist. Xianggong, I don't have any money at home, but as you know, those literary families like my things. A few days ago, I bought a calligraphy and painting for 500 yuan. Unfortunately, I was in a hurry before escaping, but I still carried a few calligraphy and paintings with me. If you're the first one with me, then I can have people sell these calligraphy and paintings. 3 out of 4 wives are fighting for it. Only Li Qiushui, the fourth aunt who just entered yesterday, is sitting in the corner at this moment. She lowered her head shyly and dared not look at people. Su Chen approached her and gently touched Li Qiushui's hair. How about you? How much do you plan to spend? Upon hearing these words, Li Qiushui still lowered his head in fear and dared not speak. Okay, if you don't speak, then consider it a waiver. Since that's the case. Su Chen hasn't finished speaking yet. I saw a pair of white and slender hands reaching out to grab my wrist. In my package yesterday, there was a 1,000 yuan silver note, and I can also ask my dad to bring another 1,000 yuan. I heard Li Qiushui's submissive voice. The remaining aunties in the room were all dumbfounded. I didn't expect that the most timid and hesitant person would take the most. 2,000 yuan in the ocean. This is enough to pay off more than half of the debt of the Su family. No wonder when fourth sister came out yesterday, the packages were so heavy. Is it all silver when combined? Chen Qiuling asked curiously. At this moment, Su Chen looked at Li Qiushui and said, "Isn't that the big box you had yesterday also?" Li Qiushui said wrongly, "Yesterday there were some clothes inside." Su Chen finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, Li Qiushui spoke again, "At the bottom, there are several silver bills that my mother gave me." Upon hearing these words, several aunties were all dumbfounded, and then couldn't help but laugh. Su Chen helplessly hugged his head and said, "You told me earlier, didn't you tell me we all took it out?" "Sorry." "Xiang. Gong." Li Qiushui apologized in a low voice with red eyes. Su Chen couldn't help but laugh when he saw her appearance. "Since that's the case, those 3 wives, I'll start with your 4 sisters tonight." After saying these words, Su Chen started directly. In the room, everyone was extremely happy. Have a pleasant night. The next morning, it was just dawn. All the remaining servants of the Su family gathered together. At this point, Grandma Yang Shuya walked out of the room. Holding several letters in his hand, he handed them over to 4 servants. It must be delivered before noon. These letters are related to the future glory of our Su family. Thank you all. A few servants clasped their fists and bowed. Please rest assured, young lady. We must do our best to deliver on time. Watching several deliverymen leave, Yang Shuya breathed a sigh of relief and silently recited. I hope God blesses my Su family. At this moment, Su Moxuan and Zhang Shi also walked out of the room. Shuya, have you sent it out? Yang Shuya quickly turned around. Dad, Mom, the letters have all been delivered. Don't worry, our family will definitely get up. Both of them looked excitedly at their eldest daughter-in-law. Good child, it's his luck that Chinner has you here. Yang Shuya smiled and nodded, then took out another envelope from her sleeve. This is Sister Qiushui's, said the Xianggong. I'll give this money to you and ask Uncle Li to help take care of a nice house. Su Moxuan took the envelope and opened it. Good guy, the amount inside is 1,000 silver dollars. After Yang Shuya left, Su Moxuan tightly held the envelope in his hand and looked at his wife Zhang. Chen heir from our family has really married a few good wives. It seems that our Su family has really been saved this time. Soon. With the help of several aunties. Su Chen's father-in-law's family spared no effort and began to help the Su family repay their debts. And Su Chen's family also bought a spacious house in the city of Jingnan. Although it cannot compare to the former Su family courtyard. But such a courtyard house can temporarily make the Su family live more spacious. And one more thing, it's not a problem for several aunties to live together often. Although Su Chen likes it, there are still some aunties who can't let go. Especially 4th Aunt Tai Li Chiushui, this 3rd grade aunt's wife. Su Chen really likes it, but this girl is so shy in front of everyone. Now that I live in this new courtyard, there should be no problem. On the other hand, Su Chen also had Yang Shuya's family contact a foreign client. Since we want to do business in textile factories, that requires the introduction of advanced foreign technology. In this way, the textile factory can produce quickly. Add the advanced technology provided by the system to the textile factory when the time comes. Su Chen is confident that he can definitely make his textile factory popular nationwide. That night, the Su family returned to Jingnan again and moved into a newly purchased yard. Just settled down. Yang Shuya hurriedly walked in. At this moment, Su Chen was lying on the bed. Ask Li Chiushui and Chen Chuling to give him a massage. I just moved today and there aren't many servants in the house. So many things were moved by Su Chen himself. Well, when the 2 aunties saw Su Chen working so hard, they all came over to help massage him. Xianggong, the person you want has arrived. Upon hearing these words, Su Chen quickly lifted his head. I saw a tall foreigner walking into the room. Chapter 6, When I was a child, I spoke English and my wife was stunned. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xianggong, this is the person my father found for you. Mr. George. According to my father, Mr. George is a noble family in Eagle Country. He came to China these years just to broaden his horizons. But my father has a good relationship, that's why Mr. George plans to come and see you. Feel the introduction of Yang Shuya. Su Chen stood up with a smile. Hello Mr. George. Hello Mr. Su. George's awkward Chinese made Su Chen feel a bit amused. Mr. George, let's still speak English. Upon hearing this fluent English, George was immediately stunned. Because he has been in China for so many years and has never heard such a proficient English accent. At this moment, even Yang Shuya, Chen Chuling, and Li Chiushui in the room were stunned. Having been with Su Chen for so long, they never expected him to speak English. I didn't expect Mr. Su's English to be so good. George also happily talked to Su Chen. I have to say, Su Chen's eloquence is really good. Based on his previous understanding, Su Chen has explained many customs and habits of the Eagle Kingdom. George was incredibly happy to meet such a cultured person in a foreign land, it was a treasure. More importantly, George greatly admired the other party's vision and knowledge. Soon, Su Chen talked to George about his desire to purchase textile machinery. Su, don't worry, this matter is up to me. George had already regarded Su Chen as a good brother by now. During dinner, Su Chen had someone prepare dinner. And I personally went out and took out the steak that was once gifted by the system. Looking at the steak and knives and forks on the table, George looked even more at Su Chen. He repeatedly said that he would be willing to help with the textile machinery matter. After seeing off George, Su Moxuan was also extremely surprised. He didn't expect his son to be able to talk to foreigners. It seems that there is a real possibility that this business can be done for him. The machine matter is settled, and the next step is to establish a factory. The next morning, Su Chen directly asked the butler Li Shu to take him outside to see the factory. It's really difficult to get a better piece of land this year. Due to the raging war, many residents have been displaced. The rent is expensive, and the land is also expensive. But Su Chen is running a factory this time to revitalize his family. He must take down the land. Even if it's looking for a relatively remote place, it's not a problem. Anyway, the aroma of wine will not fear the depth of the alley. He believes that his textile technology will set off a wave in China. After watching for the last day, I finally saw a good piece of land at the head of Jingnan City, covering an area of over 3,000 square meters. For a textile factory, this ground is not very large. But Su Chen didn't hesitate and immediately signed a contract with the boss to pay the deposit. The ground is not large and remote. Such land is indeed rarely bought by people. Usually, it is used to accommodate some refugees. Su Chen looked at the hungry and emaciated people on the ground. Although there is some emotion and unbearable feeling in my heart, there is still no way. But he did come up with a good idea. When the factory starts running, aren't these people just cheap labor? After returning home, Su Moshwan heard from Uncle Li about his son buying land. Oh, my good son, you're confused. Back then, your father and I didn't even want that piece of land for $800, but now you've spent $1,000. Su Chen smiled and said, Dad, nowadays the prices of the land are getting the same day by day. Besides, this piece of land also comes with accessories. You'll know then. At night, Su Chen arrived at Li Qiushui's room. After spending a few days together, Li Qiushui, the fourth aunt, has already been very obedient to Su Chen. And now that I have my own room, I am not as shy as before. After a storm, Li Qiushui leaned over Su Chen's chest. Xianggong, my father sent someone today and the money has already been delivered to me. And there's also an extra 500 yuan. The total is 1,500 yuan in the ocean. As he spoke, Li Qiushui pulled open the pillow beside him. After seeing the ocean wrapped in red paper, Su Chen couldn't help but hold Li Qiushui in his arms. Thank you. Li Qiushui smiled and shook his head. Xianggong, don't say that. I'm already your person. Ask Dad for some money and he's willing to do it. Besides, I know my husband's skills. Maybe in the future, I can even double the amount of money for my father to pay back. Upon hearing this, Su Chen smiled and touched Li Qiushui's hair. She truly deserves to be rated as a third-grade woman by the system. Not only is your appearance online, but even your IQ is not average high. That night, Su Chen stayed overnight in Li Qiushui's room. After all, they paid for it. The next morning, Su Chen took the money directly, paid the remaining land money, and then pressed the fingerprint. This piece of land has become his own. The boss is very happy because most people don't want this piece of land. And with so many refugees around, it will be a hassle to do things then. However, Su Chen didn't care, what he wanted was cheap labor. Ladies and gentlemen, today, this piece of land has already become the property of our young master. But my young master said he won't drive everyone away. Because next, we are going to open a factory here. Big guy can work, I'll leave a name over there later. After a few days, we will start running the factory. Everyone will have classes and food to eat. I heard the voice of butler Uncle Li. The refugees clapped their hands happily. After returning home, Su Moshwan told Su Chen that the foreigner came again a few days ago. This time George came to tell Su Chen that the machinery and equipment had been successfully ordered. It will be shipped to China in 3 days. And this time he also brought a few technical personnel. By then, we can start building factories and debugging equipment. Su Chen is very grateful to George. That evening, a banquet was held to entertain George. With the help of technical personnel brought by George, the textile factory was quickly built and all the machinery and equipment were decorated and debugged. Half a month later, Sujia Textile Factory officially opened. On the day of opening, Yang Shuya specially invited her father over. In this way, many old textile customers have become aware of the relationship between Su Chen and the Yang family. In the future, Su Chen will also have a foundation in business. Visiting this small factory, there were various advanced equipment inside, and more importantly, Su Chen even recruited refugees into the factory. These people are all praising the Su family for being good to them, and many of them don't want any labor money, just to help out. Yang Shuya's father really admires Su Chen. I didn't expect my son-in-law to be so capable. Many people are praising the young master of the Su family. I didn't expect that after the Su family went bankrupt, they could still start a factory. It seems that not all the rumors from the outside world are true. However, what surprised him even more was still to come. Because the first batch of cotton yarn produced by Su's textile factory amazed everyone. Chapter 7, This cloth is so good that I was amazed by my father-in-law. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Time flies by quickly. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. The first batch of goods from Sujia Textile Factory is also about to be produced today. Shipping. A whoosh came out. All the workers began to cheer. Uncle Lee, the butler, quickly ran out with a bundle of cotton cloth. Young master, young lady, take a look. This is produced in our Su family's own factory. This kind of material is simply amazing. I never expected that this foreign machine, combined with your technology, would have such a good fabric. Su Chen took the cotton cloth and gently twisted it with his fingers. A satisfied smile appeared at the corner of the mouth. Compared to the cotton fabrics on the market now, these materials from the Su family can definitely beat them in seconds. Take a look. Su Chen gave it to Yang Shuya next to him. Yang Shuya, a young grandmother who grew up in a textile factory since childhood. At this moment, I also curiously took this bundle of cloth. A few seconds later, her eyes suddenly lit up and she looked at Su Chen in shock. Xianggong, is this, such good cloth really from our textile factory? Su Chen smiled and said, that's natural. There will be even better things in the future. Immediately release this batch of goods and show it to the people outside. Uncle Lee, the butler, quickly nodded. Okay, young master, I'll arrange it immediately. For so long, the Su family has been exposed to too much gossip outside. Many people say that the situation of the Su family has passed, especially the charming young master at home. Today we're going to show them how this so-called handsome young master startled their chins. In just half a day. The fabrics from Sujia Textile Factory are listed in major silk estates. Good guy, is this the fabric from the newly opened Su Family Textile Factory? This fabric, this dyeing, it's so exquisite. The most important thing is, there are various patterns on this fabric, take a good look. I didn't expect the Su family to make such good fabrics. Boss, the Li family in the south of our city needs 10 bundles. Boss, the Zhang family in the north of our city needs 20 bundles. Spicy chicken, our master said that all the goods from Su's textile factory will be directly packed and taken home in the future. Almost just received goods from Su's textile factory at this store. He was snatched away by everyone. Whether it's local wealthy businessmen or civilians. Everyone is grabbing the fabric from the Su family textile factory. Wait until it gets dark. All merchants have goods from Sujia Textile Factory. All of them were snatched by everyone. On this day, the fabric from the Sujia Textile Factory became scarce throughout the city. That's amazing. I didn't expect the Su family to wake up again. I heard that this textile factory is still run by the young master of the Su family. What? That textile factory is actually owned by the young master of the Su family, who is known for his promiscuous behavior. Isn't it true that the young master of the Su family has no virtue, no talent, and is simply promiscuous? Why did he suddenly become so powerful? Perhaps life was too good before, but now after going through a wave of bankruptcy, I have finally grown up. The prodigal son turned around and decided to take the right path, so he began to develop in various ways. Hear these comments. Everyone is filled with emotions. Although Su Chen was indeed too promiscuous before. But now, since he can turn back as a prodigal. That's truly admirable. At the same time. Jingnan Yangjia Textile Factory. Yangjia Textile Factory is the largest textile family in the entire Jiangnan region. My ancestors were all engaged in this industry, and it's the generation of Yang Fengnian. It will further expand the textile industry. Almost monopolized all textile industries and even exported goods abroad. In short, being able to maintain such a large enterprise in times of war and chaos. The Yang family is indeed not average in strength. In order to make our goods smoother, Yang Fengnian deliberately married the Su family. Married his only daughter to the young master of the Su family. Although I know my son-in-law is promiscuous. Marry 3 aunties a year. But Yang Fengnian held back for the sake of his family's interests. However, what he didn't expect was. The Su family suddenly went bankrupt a few days ago, and such a large industry disappeared overnight. The son-in-law, without virtue or talent, is still promiscuous, and the only family business that can be said to continue is now bankrupt. This immediately made Yang Fengnian feel that marrying his daughter to the Su family back then was really a big mistake. What made him even more angry was that a few days ago, his daughter wrote a letter to him asking for money for the Su family. Yang Fengnian was very angry. The Su family went bankrupt, it seems that he wanted to help pay off the debt. But for the sake of his only daughter, Yang Fengnian still agreed. A few days later, Yang Fengnian unexpectedly received news from his daughter. He said his promiscuous son-in-law wants to start a textile factory. Yang Fengnian attended the opening ceremony with curiosity. From the moment he entered the factory, Yang Fengnian realized it. He seems to underestimate this son-in-law a bit. Because all the machinery and equipment here are imported from abroad. These machines and equipment are also available in his factory. He naturally knows how much money is needed to use so many devices. It seems that my son-in-law has really made up his mind to become a factory. However, although you have the opportunity to use your equipment, it is also important to be able to produce good goods. After all, the textile industry relies not only on equipment, but more importantly on mature textile technology. So Yang Fengnian still holds a wait-and-see attitude towards his son-in-law's entrepreneurship. Just at this moment, a rapid sound of footsteps echoed outside. "Master, master." The butler hurriedly ran in. "What are you running for? You're in a panic." Yang Fengnian sat up from the chair. The butler wiped the fine sweat off his forehead and quickly bowed. "Master, it's about the Su family textile factory. Didn't you ask me to keep an eye on the Su family textile factory at that time? Today, the first batch of goods from the Su family came out." Yang Fengnian exclaimed curiously, "How are you doing? What is the quality of that kid's first batch of goods?" At this moment, the expression on the butler's face was extremely strange. He took out a piece of fabric from his arms. "Master, I think you should take a look yourself." Yang Fengnian took over this piece of fabric and was stunned at the first glance. In both eyes, there was an incredibly strong light emanating. "It's so beautiful, this is definitely the best fabric I've ever seen. This material, this dye, and this print. Are you sure this is from the Su family textile factory?" The butler nodded hastily and said, "It's true. When I went to the nearby silk and satin shop, all the goods from the Su family were snatched at the scene. I still got this from an acquaintance." Upon hearing these words, Yang Fengnian was completely dumbfounded. Because he didn't expect his son-in-law to really succeed. And the fabric in front of us is definitely a flash away from all the textile technologies on the market today. At this moment, Yang Fengnian held this piece of fabric and sat on the chair with a dull expression in his eyes. This kid really helped him find a way. Chapter 8, A Promising Future, A Wife in the Future. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. At this time, it is in the newly purchased courtyard of the Su family. Thick smoke emanated from the chimney. The yard is filled with the fragrance of various vegetables. The kitchen is constantly busy here. Since the Su family went bankrupt not long ago, my family has never been so festive and lively before. In the middle living room, Su Moshwan directly asked the kitchen to make a large table of dishes to celebrate. Su Chen's 3 aunts also walked out of the room. Being able to see one's own man succeed is simply the happiest thing for every woman. Mom and Dad, please rest and let's come. 3 aunties entered the living room, and Aunt Chin Chilling hurriedly helped with the dishes and tidied up the table. There aren't many servants at home now, so these things are all done by themselves. Aunt Air is always aloof, but she is also very agile in her actions. Not long after Aunt Li Chiushui entered, but she was also a lady from a wealthy family, so she knew a lot of rules and regulations. At this moment, she quickly began to reach out to help. Su Moshwan and his wife Zhang were very happy when they saw their 3 daughters-in-law. At this moment, the voice of butler Uncle Li sounded outside. The young master and grandmother have returned. Hear the call. Everyone in the room ran out. Xianggong, big sister, you're back. Xianggong, big sister. Xianggong, big sister. All 3 aunties bowed to Su Chen. When Su Moshwan saw his son, he was so excited that he shed tears again. Good son, my good son. Dad didn't expect that you really succeeded. Yang Shuya, the eldest daughter-in-law, curiously said, Mom and Dad, do you all know? Zhang smiled and said, Uncle Li has come back to say that all the silks and satins from our factory have been sold out. You sisters and I also wanted some. It seems that we can only wait a few days. Upon hearing these words, Yang Shuya happily grabbed her mother-in-law's hand. Mother, my husband has really succeeded. I have never seen such good fabrics before. Su Moshwan looked at his son excitedly. Son, you're so amazing. You've brought glory to our old Su family. Su Chen smiled helplessly and said, All right, Dad, isn't that a good thing? Don't cry. Su Moshwan nodded excitedly and said, Okay. Dad won't cry, won't cry. Really, on these great days, our son is so promising. Why are you crying? At this moment, his wife Zhang also began to complain. The family happily entered the living room. Just sat down, several daughter-in-law rushed to pour wine for Su Chen. All right, let me do it. Su Moshwan personally took the wine jug and began pouring wine for his son. At this moment, Su Chen sat still without refusing. He knew that today was the happiest day for the old man, even happier than his own business. Dad, I have decided to continue expanding the scale of the textile factory. After drinking, Su Chen said very seriously. The first batch of goods in the early stage is only experimental products. But Su Chen did not expect that the advanced textile technology given by the system was so awesome. Since that's the case, then let go and start moving forward. We must definitely expose the textile reputation of the Su family. Son, this is just the beginning, so theoretically we should play steadily. This is only the first batch of goods, and we are continuing to expand our scale. Isn't it a bit too fast? After all, Su Moshwan still lacks Su Chen's courage. Su Chen smiled faintly and said, Dad, I have confidence in making our textile industry famous nationwide. Upon hearing these words, Su Moshwan, Zhang Shi, and several aunties present were all stunned. If Su Chen had said this before, Su Moshwan might have said that his son was deceiving his aunts and wives to be happy again. But this time, Su Moshwan stood up extremely excited. Son, Dad, just one sentence now, whatever you do, I will support you. So you can do it with confidence. After saying these words, Su Moshwan directly finished the wine in the cup. However, Su Chen smiled and said, "Dad, I'm not here to ask you to support me. I want you to help me. If the business of the textile factory expands, someone will need to manage it. You must have experience managing the port for so many years, so it's okay to let you be the deputy director of the textile factory, right?" Su Moshwan thought he had misheard, but it wasn't until his wife Zhang reminded him that he foolishly looked at Su Chen. "Son, you say, let your father and I be the deputy factory director." Su Chen nodded with a smile, and several aunties also smiled at the father and son. The business of the textile factory definitely needs to expand, so we can only ask Dad to come out and help. Although the old man's dock business is average, there are still no problems with management. And in the future, I will also expand my business in other areas. At that time, the textile factory will still be handed over to my father, so it's better to let him start adapting early now. Have a happy dinner. In the evening, Su Chen stayed overnight in the room of the young grandmother Yang Shia. It can be said that the opening of the textile factory this time is partly due to the financial resources of Aunt Li Qiushui, and partly due to the help of Grandma Yang Shia. Before the opening on that day, she personally went to the Yang family to seek Yang Fengnian, which is why Yang Fengnian attended the opening ceremony of the Su family textile factory. If Yang Fengnian did not arrive at the scene, even if the Su family's textile factory opened, there would still be no sales channels. Because no one dares to believe you, standing there with Yang Fengnian is a sign. People in the entire Jingnan region know that Yang Fengnian, who is known as the number one in the textile industry, actually attended the Su family's textile factory. Perhaps there are also shares of the Yang family in this, which is why there is a sales channel for the Su family. Of course, even without the involvement of Yang Fengnian. But Su Chen can also expand the textile industry of the Su family, it's just a matter of time. And tonight, it was also Su Chen who came to reward the young grandmother Yang Shia. After finishing the task, Yang Shia leaned against Su Chen's embrace. "Xianggong, actually I know that my family's textile industry can succeed. Your credit is the most important, even if my dad didn't come that day, I believe you can. The happiest thing for me now is that you have deliberately studied the textile industry for me. And I didn't expect that you could learn so well, even surpassing my dad. It has to be said that women of third grade not only look beautiful, but also have extremely intelligent thinking." I immediately thought of the key point. Su Chen smiled and touched her hair. "If our Su family's textile factory really surpasses your father by then, what would you do?" Yang Shia smiled and said, "What can I do? Anyway, I am all your people, and my dad has said that in the future, you will also be responsible for managing the textile industry of the Yang family." Upon hearing this, Su Chen opened the banquet and gave you a smile. He is now increasingly fond of this lush system. The first wife can bring such good development to oneself. The other wives are definitely not much different. More importantly, Su Chen is still fantasizing that his third-grade wife is so good. What will happen to the second and first-grade products? What a promising future. Chapter 9, Big Sale Big Sale. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3 days later. The cotton fabric and other goods produced by Sujia Textile Factory. Completely exploding in the entire Jiangnan region. Compared to goods from other textile factories. The materials and workmanship of the Su family, as well as the fuel, are all very exquisite. And in the Su family textile factory, although the factory is not large. But inside, all of them are foreign machinery and equipment. The machine keeps moving, the people keep moving. Everyone outside knows that Su's household labor is also extremely cheap. They are all refugees who were originally on this land. Many people don't even want to work for money, as long as they can eat enough every day, they work extremely hard. For them, being able to eat enough in this era is stronger than anything else. So in just 3 days, the goods from Suzhou textile factory directly swept through the entire Jiangnan market. The silk shops and dyeing workshops, big and small, are all goods of the Su family. If you shout out on the street, Su's cloth will definitely be snatched away by someone. From high-ranking officials and wealthy businessmen to ordinary people. Everyone is competing for the fabric from the Su family. Not only are the clothes made of good quality, but even the patterns and colors on them are refreshing to people. Rich wives gather and chat, all asking if they have bought Su's materials today. The piece I bought yesterday is really good. Please make a cheongsam for me immediately, sir. Then the other ladies were extremely envious. Returning home, crying and fussing with the elders to ask for Su's fabric. The streets and alleys outside, but anyone you can afford to wear Su's fabric. This person will definitely be surrounded and discussed by a group of people. Because those clothes are really beautiful. The fabric is smooth, making it look even more eye-catching when worn. You walk on the street, and the big guy knows your identity at a glance. So in just a few days, the goods from Suzhou textile factory in the urban area of Jingnan completely occupied the entire market. Almost every day, you can see long queues of customers and bosses outside the Su family textile factory. These people are all holding orders, hoping to receive the goods in advance. Xianggong, how about taking a look at these few clothes from us? Inside the Su family yard. Several aunties were all wearing newly made kipeos and walking back and forth in front of Su Chen. It has to be said that the appearance and physique of Su Chen's wives are extremely beautiful. With the blessing of the Su family fabric, the beauty of several aunties is highlighted to the fullest. Young master, young master. Uncle Li, the butler, ran back with an account book. Su Chen quickly sat up, waved his hand, and asked several aunts to step down. Did you bring back the things? Uncle Li, the butler, quickly nodded and said, we have all brought them back. These are all the accounts of our factory in the past 5 days. The master told me that even today, we can earn 1,000 yuan in a day. Su Chen nodded, took the ledger in his hand, and casually flipped through it. Every day, thousands of dollars were deposited into the account. How are the machines in the factory? No problem, right? The butler quickly nodded and said, don't worry, Mr. George's friend is watching. The master took him to check today and said everything is fine. Su Chen put away the bill and nodded slightly, saying, all right, take it down. From now on, let my dad see these things, and I won't care. Oh, by the way, how did you get along with the things that showed you the land? Uncle Li hurriedly said, young master, I've looked at a piece of land and it's about tens of thousands of acres. The master said that place is a bit big. Upon hearing this, Su Chen couldn't help but smile. Dad was still too timid. According to the current goal of Suzhou textile factory, I'm afraid these tens of thousands of acres of land are not enough to run a factory. Just at this moment, a servant ran back from the door. Young master, Uncle Li, the master of the Yang family is here. Su Chen nodded with a smile and said, please hurry. He had long guessed that this father-in-law would definitely come to find him. But I didn't expect him to come so quickly. It seems that the old man also saw the terrifying development of the Su family's industry. The rapid development of the Su family textile factory has definitely put unprecedented pressure on this old man. After a moment, Yang Fengnian and the butler entered the living room with several packages of gifts. My son-in-law welcomes your father-in-law. Yang Fengnian sat on the chair with a smile, looking at the son-in-law in front of him with satisfaction. A month ago, the Su family was begging people everywhere to repay their debts. However, to this day, the Suzhou textile industry has already spread throughout the Jiangnan region. His reputation overshadowed his Yang family's textile industry. You should know that the textile industry of the Yang family has been developing in the Jiangnan region for nearly a century. But at this moment, they were defeated by the Su family who had only risen for a few days. This feeling is probably only known to Yang Fengnian now. Xiaochen, where is Xiaoya? Su Chen quickly waved and said, go call out the young lady and say her father is here. Yang Fengnian quickly stopped him and said, no need, I came today just to chat with you. As he spoke, Yang Fengnian smiled and looked at Su Chen. Xiaochen, I really didn't expect you to run the factory so well. To be honest, Dad, like those people outside, thought you. Speaking of which, Yang Fengnian waved his hand. Huh, it's just that. It's all over now, let's not talk about it anymore. Su Chen naturally knew what the old man wanted to say. Because he knows all the sounds circulating outside. Father-in-law, are you here today to talk to my son-in-law about something? Yang Fengnian smiled and nodded, indeed, Xiaochen's vision is getting better and better now. Su Chen also smiled and said, how about letting my son-in-law guess? Is it because of the Su family textile factory? Yang Fengnian's smile instantly solidified on his face, that, Xiaochen. Before he could speak, Su Chen smiled again and said, Father-in-law, I know your purpose. You may not understand my thoughts about the Su family textile factory. But what I'm going to do next will definitely be a big event that benefits both of us. You must support me in this matter. Yang Fengnian swallowed his saliva and looked curiously at Su Chen. Xiaochen, is the rumor of expanding the scale of Su's textile factory outside true? Su Chen nodded as he looked at him and said, that's right, the scale of Su's textile factory will definitely expand, and even if you don't come to me today, I will come to you. Because I want our Yang and Su textile factories to merge. Upon hearing these words, Yang Fengnian suddenly stood up from his chair. This is impossible. Yangjia textile factory has been operating for over 100 years and will definitely not merge with other textile factories. Xiaochen, you are my only son-in-law, and I will tell you today. Yang Fengnian's words have not been finished yet. There was a sound of footsteps outside. Immediately after, the figure of his daughter Yang Shuya appeared in front of him. Dad, if you still recognize my daughter, agree to what my husband said. Chapter 10, If it's hard, then be hard to the end and establish the strongest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a moment. Yang Fengnian sat on the chair, his face extremely gloomy. I can agree to the merger of the textile factory, but the two words Yang family must not be lost. As soon as the words fell, Yang Shuya, the daughter next to her, let out a mournful voice and said, Dad. At this moment, Su Chen waved his hand and smiled, I can agree to your father-in-law's request. Anyway, when the time comes, it can also be changed to Suyang Textile Factory. As long as there's a Yang, that's fine, right? Looking at Su Chen across from him, Yang Fengnian sighed and felt really heartbroken. But just now my daughter forced me with death, and he really had no choice. We have taken care of Yang Fengnian's side. The next morning, Su Chen directly took people to inspect the Yangjia textile factory. After a night of contemplation, on Yang Fengnian's side, he finally figured it out. Yesterday, he thought that his daughter's use of death as a means of coercion was solely focused on her husband and disregarding her father. But after thinking about it all night, he realized that his daughter was actually the real smart. Yesterday, Yang Shuya threatened to protect Yang Fengnian with death. Even without merging with Yang Fengnian, Su Chen's textile industry could not be stopped completely. His technology is overwhelming and unique to this era. Far away, not to mention nearby, all other competitors are in front of him. There will only be one outcome, which is death. On one side, like other factories, it was crushed and became fragments under the tide of technology. On one hand, there is a merger, which seems to be helping Su Chen develop, but in fact, it is leaving a way for himself. Yang Fengnian finally understood that his own daughter was being careful. Even after thinking it through, he began to feel grateful that his son-in-law was Su Chen. After all, if it weren't for this kind of relationship, Su Chen probably wouldn't have come to find him. He can conquer the world alone. More importantly, Yang Fengnian, this old guy, also saw it. My son-in-law is definitely not something in the pool. This property is now handed over to him. Perhaps I can really live better with myself. Seeing the father-in-law figure it out, Su Chen also felt much better. The Yang family's textile factory directly covers an area of tens of thousands of acres and has branches in several cities. In recent years, the entire Jiangnan region and even the northern region have been using Yang's cotton. Now that Yang Fengnian hands over this family property to him, it is equivalent to giving Su Chen a huge platform directly. Although he can develop without these, it would be even better if he could develop faster with these. These are the specific plans. The main issue next is the machinery and equipment. But I will tell George to buy as many foreign equipment as possible. As long as we have these devices, our textile enterprise will definitely accelerate 100 times faster than before. Upon hearing these words, Yang Fengnian swallowed hard on his side. Over the years, his factories have been using the oldest textile technology. Although he also dealt with foreigners, he always believed that those machines and equipment were not as good as those left by his ancestors. Unexpectedly, Su Chen's first suggestion was to purchase new equipment. Xiaochen, are those foreigners' devices really reliable? I think it's better for our ancestors to stay behind. Although it's a bit slow, fortunately it's stable. Yang Fengnian is still a bit worried. However, Su Chen smiled and said, "Father-in-law, the factory is now being handed over to me for merger. You won't regret it, will you?" Yang Fengnian quickly shook his head and said, "I know, but I'm still a bit scared." "Don't worry, if there is any mistake, I will compensate you then." Although Su Chen said so, Yang Fengnian also knew. Having a daughter in the Su family, even if he loses money, he is willing to do so. Now I just hope that the equipment of these foreigners can be more reliable, so as not to ruin the Yang family's brand. At night, Su Chen returned home. "I heard that my son has acquired the Yang family's textile factory." Su Moxuan was already too excited to wait at this moment. Seeing Su Chen come back is really exciting. Immediately welcomed over. "Good son, have you succeeded in handling the matter?" Su Chen smiled and said, "Dad, are you still worried about your son's departure?" Upon hearing these words, Su Moxuan almost jumped up in excitement. For so long, the bankruptcy of the Su family has become a heavy imprint in Su Moxuan's heart. However, what he didn't expect was that at the critical moment, this precious son stood up. Hurry up, hurry up. Your mother personally cooked your favorite dish today. The father and son must have a good drink tonight." Late at night, Su Chen, who was full of alcohol, returned to the room of the young lady Yang Shuya. "Come and have a cup of hangover tea." Yang Shuya helped Su Chen to the bed. However, Su Chen tightly held on to her hand. "Xiaoya, you helped me again today." Yang Shuya smiled and said, "Actually, it was you who helped me." Su Chen smiled and didn't speak again. After all, he really wants to help his father-in-law this time. "You have been here for several days. The other sisters will complain." Yang Shuya held a towel and wiped Su Chen's face. Su Chen's other hand was not honest. "They are all family members, they don't know. Besides, our Su family's industry is not only limited to textile factories, but also needs to develop more in the future. When the time comes, don't say I won't give them a few opportunities." Upon hearing these words, Yang Shuya looked curiously at Su Chen. "Xianggong, are you saying that our family still needs to develop other industries, and both the second and fourth sisters' families may have the possibility?" Su Chen smiled and remained silent. Since there is a first step, why can't there be a second step? Previously, Su Chen was thinking of being low-key and then low-key. Being able to take action at a critical moment in the era and make a stunning impact. But after careful consideration now, he realized. That so-called critical moment. It's simply impossible to find it accurately. And he had always overlooked a key point before. That is to take action at a critical moment, and it may already be too late. Suddenly exploding is capable of making a stunning spectacle and making oneself shine like a brilliant star. But after wanting to shine on oneself, what about the family? The prosperity and development of a family, unlike an individual, requires accumulation. Now it's still peaceful, and then there will be non-stop wars. After that, there will be a new era. Only personal strength. The family itself has no terrifying accumulation. So this family is difficult to sustain. So, Su Chen's thinking changed and he no longer hid. He wants to develop comprehensively. Next, it's no longer necessary to save some. Next, he will unleash all the accumulated energy. And as long as you get more, you will quickly explode more. In order to protect family, and also to be stronger. After all, his system requires lush branches and leaves. If the family is unstable, the family is scarce. So everything is just floating clouds. Now his main task is to make the textile factory more formal. But now with my own father and the help of my father-in-law. I believe it won't be long before such normalization is achieved. At that time, you can free up your hands and do other things. Looking out the window, Su Chen's gaze showed a hint of firmness.